This would be a moment for silent prayer and meditation. Thank you. You may be seated. You may be seated. The secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 11, Public Service and Administration, including vote 7, National School of Government, and vote number 12, Public Service Commission.
Honorable Minister for Public Service and Administration.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Let me acknowledge the Honorable House Chair, the Deputy Minister of Public Service and Administration, Dr. Kana Pilani-Majake, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, in particular the Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, Chairperson of the Public Service Commission, and GEMS, Public Sector Education and Training Authority, that is the PSETA, and the PRM, the National Governing Council, the Directors General, and all executives of the MPSA Extended Portfolio, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans, Dumelang, Mulweni, good afternoon, Sanbonani. Honorable House Chair, the preamble of the Constitution of the Republic states that, and I quote, "We, the people of South Africa, adopt this Constitution as a supreme law of the Republic so as to improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person," end quote. Honorable House Chair, it is our collective and individual duty as public servants and public representatives to do all in our power to free the potential of each person and improve the quality of life of South Africans in line with Batupili principles, Abantu Ka. As we pursue this noble duty, we feel honored to deliver the 2023-24 budget for the following votes: the vote 11, which is the Department of Public Service and Administration, vote 7, National School of Government, and vote 12, the Public Service Commission. And I'm honored to note that the chair of the Public Service Commission, Professor Somadoda Fikeni, is with us in the house, together with Professor Ngaweni, the principal of the National School of Government. It is important to highlight that the Public Service Commission is an independent institution established in terms of Chapter 10 of the Constitution. It should also be noted that the budget for the Center for Public Service Innovation, as led by the director, Ms. Lydia Sibukedi, falls within the vote of the department and will be tabled by Honorable Deputy Minister, Dr. Pilani-Majake. Honorable House Chair, the approval of the professionalization framework for the public sector has been a game changer for government's pursuit of priority 1 of the 6th administration, namely the building of a capable, ethical, and developmental state. The collaborative manner, ably led by the NSG, delivered a groundbreaking framework that requires the full implementation by all sectors, including the 10 legislatures, local governments, national and provincial departments, and all state-owned entities. We are well on course for full implementation of the framework, and this will include the issuing of directives that will cover, amongst others, the following: the tenure of heads of department, the abolishment of experience requirements for entry-level posts in level 1 to level 5, as per the Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa's pronouncement in this year's SONA. The extension of pre-entry tests, including competency assessments to the whole of the public service, and the revised PMDS for heads of departments. Honorable Chair and honorable members, the department is leading the national and provincial departments to appoint professionalization champions as we integrate deliverables in the performance agreements, annual performance plans, and annual operational plans to ensure that there is ownership and accountability, which is accompanied by the appropriate allocation of resources for the full implementation of the framework. Honorable Chairperson, the department's budget allocation for 2023-24 financial year is 553,460,000, which is an increase of 1% from the allocation for the 2022-23 financial year. Compensation of employees constitutes 300 million, or 54% of the total budget allocation. Goods and services is 194 million, and the capital budget is 6 million. Transfer payment is 52 million, of which 45 million and 800,000 will be transferred to the Center for Public Service Innovation as budget allocation for their activities for the current 2023-24 financial year. The DPSA consists of 5 programs, which collectively are expected to lead the public service through norms and standards on human resource planning and development, performance management development, employee health and wellness, transformation, wage bill management, negotiations and labor relations management, discipline, integrity and ethics management, rolling out e-government, e-services and cybersecurity infrastructure, service access, revitalizing the infusion of Batupili principles in the public service, improving the functionality of government and accessibility, as well as innovation, public participation, and knowledge management. We are committed to lead the integration of government plans and functionality in the delivery of public goods and services as we pursue the constitutional mandate of improving the quality of life of citizens and freeing the potential of each person. In the State of the Nation address, the Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa highlighted that, and I quote, "A professional public service staffed by skilled, committed, and ethical people is critical to an effective state and ending corruption, patronage, and wastage," close quote. One of the fundamental objectives of the professionalization framework is to ensure that only qualified and competent individuals are appointed into positions of authority in pursuit of a transformed, professional, ethical, capable, and developmental public administration. The Department of Public Service and Administration is championing the effective implementation of the professionalization framework. Honorable House Chair and honorable members, the Public Service Commission's role is to promote good governance through investigations and research, as well as reports. It does report directly to Parliament. The PSC is a critical partner in the implementation of professionalization framework, as it plays an oversight and guiding role in ensuring that the public service is ethical in recruitment, employment, and governance management, among others. The Public Service Commission Amendment Bill was presented this morning to the Cabinet Committee for publication and public comments. We aim to secure the enactment of the bill into law within the current financial year. This will reposition the PSC as a bulwark of good governance in our country. Honorable House Chair, once enacted into law, the PSC bill will enable the conversion of the Office of the Public Service Commission from a government department in terms of the Public Service Act of 1994 into an independent Public Service Commission Secretariat that is established in terms of the Public Service Commission Act. This is to ensure that the Public Service Commission executes its mandate fully as an independent and impartial constitutional oversight entity. The mandate of the PSC will be reinforced and extended to local government and public entities in line with Section 196, subsection 2 of the Constitution. Honorable members, the Public Service Commission budget allocation for the 2023-24 financial year is 292.1 million, which equates to 1.2% reduction when compared to the adjusted appropriation allocated during the 22-23 financial year. Through its 4 programs, the PSC will prioritize the following: leading the restructuring process and the management of the amendment bill, reviewing the employment management practices found in the public service to promote accountability and efficient leadership management practices in line with the President's response plan to the recommendations of the Zondo Commission. Improving the monitoring and evaluation of practices across the public service through research and assessments of the public service adherence to the norms and standards set by the department. To elevate the fight against corruption by improving the whistleblower protection, the discipline management, as well as entrenching integrity and ethical conduct. And lastly, embarking on a national advocacy campaign on the constitutional values and principles in collaboration with key civil society and faith-based organizations such as the MRM, that is Moral Regeneration Movement, and the Ethics Institute. The PSC will also assess various human resource management practices that are central to the professionalization of the public service. It will strengthen its engagement with the executive authorities, the legislatures, the senior management, the human resource and labor relations practitioners to improve state capacity capabilities. The critical deliverable for the PSC is to ensure that the public service lives up to the constitutional mandate of improving the quality of life of all citizens and freeing the potential of each person. Honorable House Chair, during this 10-year period of existence, the National School of Government has been on a growth path towards making public sector education, training, and development more accessible and relevant to the challenges of service delivery. The education, training, and development interventions have focused across the public sector spectrum, from training unemployed youth graduates, the public service interns, to service public servants and senior managers. The training programs provided by the NSG now target members of boards of state-owned entities, the public representatives, the members of the executives, and the traditional leaders to undertake the much required capacity building. The reach of the school has also grown throughout the African continent and beyond, with many management development institutes benefiting from bilateral agreements with the school. The NSG has solidified its footprints with the partnerships that include the World Economic Forum, the European Union, the Civil Service College in Singapore, the China Africa Institute, and the National School of Public Administration in Brazil. Since the launch of the Economic Governance School for members of the executive, as approved by Cabinet in 2020, the National School of Government has successfully facilitated 3 iterations of the annual program in collaboration with the Vet School of Governance. Each annual program is aimed at broadening the perspectives of elected and appointed public leaders through analysis and critical reflection on the nature of challenges confronting society today. In particular, the program serves as a learning engagement platform through which senior officials collaboratively reconsider policy imperatives in a turbulent global economy. The 2022 cohort comprised local participants together with counterparts from 8 African states. This year, the National School of Government is collaborating with the Kenya School of Government to bring together participants from these 2 countries. The first leg of the 2023 program took place on the 16th to the 21st of April this year in South Africa. And the second leg will take place on the 21st to the 27th of May, 2023 in Kenya. The collaboration marks the initial implementation of the cooperation of the NSG together with the KSG in the context of building stronger Kenya-South Africa bilateral relations based on common values and development pursuits. For the 2023-24 financial year, the NSG has been allocated a budget of 229 million, of which 115 million is transferred to the training trading account. And honorable members, the NSG raises almost half of its operating costs and is targeting to raise the revenue to the amount of 101.3 million from course fees. Honorable House Chair, this means that the NSG has, over the past 10 years of its establishment and development, raised over R1 billion to fund training and development. Whilst this must be commended, there is a need to reflect on the funding model in the context of its mandate and the critical role it plays in the professionalization of the public service. The NSG will be implementing the following key priorities: targeted education, training and development of more than 46,000 learners, with the rollout of compulsory programs and focus on the niche program offerings, economic governance school, the executive education, the SOE board induction, and traditional leaders. The school has made the notable achievement since its establishment in 2013, and these include training more than 526,000 learners from all forms, through all forms of training interventions and delivery modes, such as e-learning, receiving unqualified and clean audit outcomes on both the vote and the training trading account, which points to efficient corporate governance and compliance. Designing and delivering courses such as Nukela compulsory induction program, the Project Kaedu, the ethics in the public service, economic governance, and school and other executive education courses. And over the last 3 years alone, there has been e-learning enrollments of more than 194,000 learners. To sustain this performance, in the coming months, we will table a position paper to Cabinet, which will consider the following: the teaching and learning philosophy underpinning the courses, the programs and qualifications of the National School of Government, the positioning of the School of Government for strategic international partnerships and collaboration, leading in the professionalization of the public sector, the digital learning opportunities for public servants, and reviewing the funding model for the National School of Government. Honorable House Chair, 2024 marks 30 years of democracy. And in this regard, we are reflecting on the transformative and transformation role and agenda of the public service since 1994. Through this work, we will ascertain the current transformational capacity of the public administration, areas for intervention, as well as determine the most appropriate. South Africa is not the same when compared to 1994. Today, the directors generals in the presidency, DPSA, the PSC, acting director in the CPSI are capable women that are leading the core of government. The apartheid public administration machinery has been dismantled. Malbongwe. Malbongwe. Given that we are reaching the end of the implementing the current medium-term strategic framework in this current year, we are conducting a full skills audit throughout the public service, which will include the qualifications, the skills, the competencies, and the correct location of these. The establishment of a single register for disciplinary cases and processes across all spheres of government as part of entrenching accountability and streamlining discipline as per the Honorable President's response to the Zondo Commission reports. And thirdly, completing the lifestyle audits for members of senior management service across the public service. These three areas are critical for priority 1 and the professionalization of the public service. Honorable House Chair, in the National NDP Diagnostic Report, the report of the Zondo Commission, the report of the AG, the Public Service Commission reports, the Portfolio and Select Committee reports, and our own reports as the department and the PCTA reports, we identify common challenges such as lack of integration, poor governance, and performance weaknesses. We are therefore working with the presidency, the ministers of communication and digital technologies, and the finance to fast track the digitization, the rolling out of the future of work project, the e-government, e-services to address some of these weaknesses. Additionally, we are putting measures to address the aging public service by increasing youth representation through strengthening the graduate recruitment program and enabling the specialist skills recruitment. We have resolved on an integrated and partnership approach to collectively address these challenges that are largely due to major trust deficit with the public due to ethical lapses, alleged maladministration, and strained relations with organized labor. And therefore, in egameni likahulumende, mantathe tuba ndixolise kubantu nakubemi beli lizwe for the inconvenience and the pain inflicted during the public sector wage-related strike action. Government, working with organized labor, remains committed to collective bargaining to manage labor relations in the public service we are currently working together on minimum service level agreements for essential services to ensure that South Africans are able to access the critical services at all times. Honorable House Chair, the budgets we are tabling today are intended to ensure that we deliver on our mandates. As President Mandela said in the long walk to freedom, after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are more hills to climb. These hills are milestones which will include the following for the financial year 2023-24. The Public Service Commission Amendment Act, releasing an integrated public service handbook, reviewing the public service regulations of 2016 and all associated directives and circulars, promoting efficiency by improving the political admin dichotomy, development of standard operating procedures across government, introducing competency assessment and psychometric integrity testing, ensuring that SONA priorities for the measures to protect whistleblowers are fully implemented, and therefore also ensure that the Public Service Amendment Bill, as well as the Public Administration Management Amendment Bills, are indeed followed through. House Chair, in closing, let me appeal to the members of the House to accept this budget. I thank you.
The next speaker is Honorable Mkweba.
Thank you very much, House Chair. The Minister of the Public Service and Administration, Honorable Nopolo Kivit, the Deputy Minister for Public Service and Administration, Dr. Chana Pilani Majake, honorable members, the Chairperson of the Public Service Commission, Dr. Somato Tafikeni, the Director Generals of the departments, the NSG Principal, the CPSI, Molweni. A call to serve the people is a noble call of national duty. It is a call to transform our society and build the national democratic society. The state is thus an instrument that should be directed for the socio-economic empowerment of the people. Honorable Chair, there is no higher calling in terms of a career than the public service. Public service is an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives and improve the well-being. Our government employees have chosen a noble career. They have made the choice to serve the public, and they continue serving the people. No public service will be acceptable unless the public servants are polite and pleasant to the people. Honorable members, the Department of Public Service and Administration is at the core center of government services in ensuring a foundation is laid down in building an ethical, capable, and developmental state. Whilst the National School of Government is charged with leading responsibility within the ecosystem of the public sector to provide education, training, and development, the Public Service Commission playing an oversight role as mandated by the Constitution. Honorable House Chair, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, in his State of the Nation address, open quote, he said, "We are rebuilding the state and restoring trust and pride in public institutions," close quote. Part of rebuilding the state capability is encapsulated in the Public Service Amendments Bill and Public Administration Management Amendments Bill, which are tabled before Parliament. House Chair, in restoring trust and pride in the public institution, the National School of Government has developed the national framework towards professionalizing the public sector to assist government in ensuring merit-based appointments in the public administration. These are some of the changes introduced by the African National Congress government in rebuilding the state towards delivering quality, efficient, and effective services, which will directly contribute to the socio-economic transformation. And during the 2023 State of the Nation Address, the President mentioned that, open quote, in line with the framework for the professionalization of the public sector, integrity assessment will become a mandatory requirement to the public service, and entry exams will be introduced, close quote. The African National Congress is pleased that the department has commenced with the development of guidelines on the psychometric integrity testing tool in the public service as per the framework on the professionalization. House Chair, this assists the state to assess the capabilities of applicants, which assist with identifying developmental areas. Honorable Chair and honorable members, in order for the government to achieve the objectives of rebuilding the state capability, there is a need to assess the current skills, forced to understand the capacity shortfalls in the public sector. The department, working jointly with the NSG, which is the National School of Government, need to provide guidance to all government departments in conducting skills audit. This is critical to ensure that the state capacity and the capability is fit for purpose. Honorable members, the African National Congress welcomes the developments relating to the key deliverables in amending the public service regulations and all associated directives and circulars aimed at reducing red tape experienced in the public service. We further recognize engagements on the devolution of operational matters from the executive authorities to the head of departments to promote administrative efficiency and to improve the political administrative interface in the current legislative amendments. Honorable members, we further commend the department together with the departments that were tasked to represent the employer during the wage negotiations. We are pleased a multi-year agreement has been agreed upon. The multi-term wage agreement for 2023-2024 and 2024 to 2025. This is critical to improve the living conditions of workers who are confronted by an increasing cost of living. Government should continue to explore other benefits, such as housing and other benefits for workers, to ease the impact of inflation. Honorable members, technology is bringing innovative opportunities into the public sector, and it has the potential to improve interactions between governments and citizens through the simplification of procedures. The digital transformation of government means further modernization of public administration. Honorable Chair, an increasing number of governments across the world are moving away from paper to digital tools. Government services need to adapt to technology and rapidly respond to the ever-changing world. Technology and digitization opens new avenues to improve the capability of the state. We need to also invest in cybersecurity as information within the state. As the African National Congress, we commend the partnership between the Center for Public Service Innovation and the Northern Cape province in developing online to-song service center in the province. And this model, once piloted, has to be replicated across the country, which will serve as a solution towards resolving funding and infrastructure challenges confronting all the to-song service centers in the country. Honorable Chair, the introduction of the new Kela program uptake to middle management is a noble intervention to attract the most aspiring individuals in both public and private sectors who learn about the public administration. We hope this intervention will improve the performance of the employees and further boost the revenue fund of the NSG and assist in developing fully fledged funding model to maintain income through the trading account. Honorable Chair, the Public Service Commission, as an independent institution, remains our beacon of hope in assisting legislatures with conducting effective oversight through investigation, monitoring, and evaluation over the executive authority actions. The legislative amendment of the Public Service Commission has to be fast-tracked and tabled in Parliament to strengthen and give more powers to the Commission to exercise its mandate with authority. Honorable House Chair, the Public Service Commission and the Office on Compliance have reflected on high levels of non-compliance as the committee were unequivocal on the urgent need of consequence management and efficient management of disciplinary cases. Honorable Chair and honorable members, we thank all public servants who every day of their lives are in the service of the common good of the people. We need to shy away from generalization on the capacity and capability of the state. Many public servants serve South Africans with diligence and commitment, and we salute them. Honorable Chair, let me take this opportunity to thank the Minister, the Deputy Minister, the Chairperson of the Commission, and the management of the department, the NSG, and also the Center of Public Service Innovation and the entire staff members in forging ahead with the task of building public services that is professional, capable, ethical, and developmental oriented. To the fellow members of the Portfolio Committee, thank you very much for your commitment in ensuring oversight accountability over the budget votes. The African National Congress welcomes all budget votes tabled to respond to the mandate of the department. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Schreiber.
Honorable Chairperson, the Department of Public Service and Administration bears a special responsibility in our constitutional dispensation. As the custodian of South Africa's public service, it sets the tone for civil servants who interface with the people of this country every day. Whether it's at Home Affairs offices, in classrooms, or at police stations, it is this department that is mandated to ensure, and I quote from the Constitution, a high standard of professional ethics. Public servants across national and provincial government take their cue from this department when delivering services. So let's ask today, what message is this department sending to public servants? The first message is that it is acceptable to not be serious about your work, because it took President Cyril Ramaphosa a full year to appoint a permanent minister to head this department. For a whole year, a department with only an acting minister had to undertake the important work of wage negotiations, of managing disciplinary matters, of capacitating institutions like the Public Service Commission. When the president finally did appoint a new minister earlier this year, he sent a second message to the public service, that it is fine to appoint alleged fraudsters to positions of power. Here we have a department tasked with, and I quote again, promoting and maintaining a high standard of professional ethics, being led by a new minister who allegedly faked her way to an honors and master's degree. Less than a week after she was appointed, it emerged that Minister Kivit was under investigation by the Special Investigating Unit because the University of Fort Hare had implicated her in degree fraud. In a sworn affidavit, the university detailed how the minister in charge of professional ethics registered for honors and master's degrees despite not having a bachelor's. With a little help from inside a university that has become sadly mired in corruption and assassinations, Minister Kivit allegedly defrauded her way all the way into national cabinet. And herein lay the third lesson, that a government controlled by the ANC is one where dishonesty is not punished, it is rewarded. Even though the minister is under investigation by the SAU, as we sit in this chamber today, President Ramaphosa has not lifted a finger to hold her accountable. In fact, the president rewarded her with a promotion, which gave her access to the same luxurious lifestyle that all ANC ministers and deputy ministers enjoy at the expense of the people. The DA has over the past year methodically exposed how the ministerial handbook enables ANC cadres to feed at the trough, even as they run this country into the ground.
Honorable members,
The president, in conjunction with this Department of Public Service and Administration, has dictatorial powers to abuse this handbook to force taxpayers to pay for
Honorable
ever
Paulson,
increasing
you
perks.
are too much. We can't hear the speaker.
That is why the DA has already introduced the cut cabinet perks bill to Parliament to empower this House to exercise proper oversight over the handbook and rein in spending on perks. But Chairman, let's remind the people of South Africa for a moment exactly what their money is being used for through the ministerial handbook. 512 million rand per year for VIP security. 387 million rand per year for salaries of over 600 support staff who cater to ministers' every whim. 20 million rand for luxury international travel. 15 million rand per year for generators, free water and electricity to the same cabinet that brought us stage 6 load shedding. That is nearly 1 billion rand per year on luxury perks for ANC ministers and deputy ministers. But Chair, it still does not end there. The DA has exposed that these ANC cadres currently occupy 97 mansions in Cape Town and Pretoria, valued at nearly 1 billion rand. And then we have to come to this Parliament and hear how departmental budgets are being cut. It is clear that the ANC government will cut the lights, cut the water, and cut the social grants long before they touch their corrupt perks. And there is the next lesson, that productivity simply does not matter. The same ministers who caused load shedding through decades of neglect and corruption are now using taxpayer money to insulate themselves from the consequences of load shedding. In the real South Africa created by the ANC, 30 million people live in poverty. 7 out of 10 young people cannot find work. Rates of murder and violent crime are at an all-time high, and millions of people can no longer afford to feed their families. But in the ANC's cabinet world, the people who caused this crisis are sipping taxpayer-funded champagne next to the taxpayer-funded swimming pool filled with taxpayer-funded water at their taxpayer-funded mansions behind the taxpayer-funded electric fences that are exempted from load shedding by taxpayer-funded generators. And herein lies the final message that this government and this department is sending to 1.2 million public servants. That it is not necessary to be serious about your work, that you can appoint fraudsters, that you can reward dishonesty, and that you don't have to care about productivity, because ultimately this ANC government has no shame. Next time that Home Affairs is offline, the next time you hear that 8 out of 10 South African children cannot read for meaning, and the next time that the police fails to keep you safe, remember that all of those failures by the public service are directly caused by the message that the ANC sends to public servants. But thanks to our democracy, the people of South Africa can turn the tables next year. By voting out the ANC in favor of a DA-led national government in the 2024 election, we can finally send a message to the public service that it is time to fire the fraudsters, that we demand productivity and proper service delivery, and that the days of wasting billions on politicians at the expense of the people are over. Thank you.
The next speaker is Honorable Motsepe.
Thank you, House Chair. Greetings to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, President Julius Malema, officials and commissars, members of parliament and fighters. The year 2023 marks 10 years since the formation of the Economic Freedom Fighters, the only weapon in the hands of the poor and the only organization that is fighting for the better service delivery. This year signifies a decade of advocating for the building of state capacity in order to abolish tenders. It marks 10 years of striving for improved working conditions and salaries for all public servants. As we celebrate this unwavering commitment, we call upon all public servants to donate to the revolution. We are aware that the salaries of public servants have not increased in line with inflation. We know that our nurses, teachers, clerks, and numerous other government employees are under immense pressure and risk losing their homes. This is why we urge all public servants to contribute as little as 10 rand, 20 rand, or 30 rand just by sending an SMS to EFF donation to 30175.
Honorable members,
It's
we can't hear.
172. You can send this message as many times as you like. We must finance our own revolution, and public servants are at the forefront of this movement. Chairperson, the economic freedom fighters reject the proposed budget allocation for public service and administration, as well as proposed budget for National School of Government and the Public Service Commission. We do not reject the proposed budget because we don't want the Department of Public Service and Administration or its entities to receive funding for their administration. We are objecting to ongoing budget cuts that continue to destabilize the public service in many government buildings. Despite legislation over the years attempting to bring uniformity to public service, we still lack a cohesive public service in South Africa. Entering many of the national or provincial departments, one finds public servants working in dismal conditions. Promotion and inconsistent and clear progression or succession plan are non-existent. Everyone in government seems preoccupied with tenders. We have a public service that focuses on administering tenders. This will end the EFF insourcing bill is signed into law. We must insource securities, cleaners, gardeners, artisans, and many of administration positions currently handled by a consultant on an ad hoc basis. A capable and well-equipped public service is central to the state's ability to deliver basic service and grow the economy. Insourcing is a step towards building this service. House Chairperson, the National School of Government was supposed to play a strategic role in ensuring that we recruit the best among us to deliver service to our people from entry level to middle and senior management. At the moment, the role of the National School of Government is constrained by the limited resource it has been allocated throughout its various formation. We should implement public service entrance exams, conduct regular assessment of current public service employees, and set clear targets and deliverables to guide promotions. However, none of this is happening. Instead, the School of Government is preoccupied with a mandate defined by inadequate funding. The Public Service Commission is entrusted with a clear mandate to ensure that all our public servants conduct their affairs in an appropriate manner. However, this is not going to happen when the head of state is reportedly hiding US dollars in his sofas and mattresses. The reality is that the rank and files of the public servants are demoralized by this alleged corrupt behavior. They are grappling with serious financial difficulties while the president is accused of possible involvement in money laundering, yet publicly calls for ethical conduct. The EFF rejected the proposed budget of the Department of Public Service and Administration, the National School of Government, and the Public Service Commission. This decision is not made lightly, but in light of the current circumstances and the pressing need for a transformation in how we administer and support our public service. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Msimang. Over to you.
Honorable House Chair and honorable members.
Honorable
The
members, you
Department of
can't hear
Public
him.
Service and
There's a speaker on the
Administration
floor.
is
Honorable.
an important institution that gives effect to our constitutional vision for a, thank you, for a professional and accountable public service. Professional public service is the key component for South Africans to reach their development goals. With the huge demands of social and economic upliftment needs of South Africa, our public service cannot afford unprofessional, unethical, and unreliable employees within our system. South Africa is a state capable of great success, but only with a government and public service that have the will to see us as a collective reach these achievements. With this in mind, it is unfortunate that some sections of our public sector have not as yet reached the professional standards that the citizens of this country deserve. As a nation, we have been left stunned by the lengths people have gone to in order to defraud, misuse, and blatantly steal public funds in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. Under the Department of Public Service and Administration's care, the National School of Government is tasked with providing education regarding public sector competency requirements and its professionalization. One of the recommendations for vote 7 is that the National School of Government should conduct more training through e-learning. Online learning will help to better reach all employees while also keeping them up to date with latest educational developments within the field. Why should we not further train and capacitate our state employees to have a full understanding of government theory, practicality, and ethics? State employees who are developed under state educational programs can significantly reduce the reliance on consultants, which cost the state far more in terms of cost and also the transfer of skills. We need committed employees to realize the state development goals, and those who chose to act in unacceptable ways must be brought to book. There are a number of disciplinary cases of government employees that are outstanding, whilst the salary is being paid to them during their lengthy suspension. These matters must be conducted in the shortest time frame in order for the state to reduce its wasteful expenditure on these employees. With these comments in consideration, the IFP supports this budget vote. I thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Well, The next speaker is Honorable Dan.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, the purpose of this department is to ensure a capable, professional, ethical, and development-oriented public service across all departments, both nationally and on provincial level. If we all stood up now and walked just down the block and asked general members of the public their opinion on the professionalism, ethics, and capable functionality of government departments in general, what would we hear? We would hear about the gogos who have to get up at 3 a.m. to go sit in the sun for an entire day waiting for their SASSA grants, only to hear that they have to come back tomorrow. We would hear about the single mother who have to wait 2 years for UIF maternity benefits after she's been asked by the UIF to resubmit the same documentation 9 times. We would hear about a disabled man who was left outside a public hospital, exposed to the elements for 2 days after being discharged because no one bothered to call his family to come and fetch him. And we would hear from public servants as well, who can't do their work because they have no resources at their disposal, of doctors who have to buy their own gloves and syringes, of nurses who have to buy food and take it to their patients in public hospitals because the hospitals can't give them food. And we would hear about police stations who have to close entirely during load shedding because there's no diesel for their generators, which isn't a problem with which our ministers are faced. That is the picture that the public will sketch of the public service of South Africa. Does that sound like a capable, professional, ethical, and development-oriented public service? Can we then in good conscience say that this department is succeeding in its mandate? No, we absolutely cannot. Chairperson, let me just state this. There are many public servants across all departments who go above and beyond, despite immense challenges, to deliver services to the public according to the Bartopele principles of putting people first. And for that, we thank them and we acknowledge their hard work. And that includes whistleblowers who refuse to allow the continuous looting of state funds that has become synonym with this ANC government. We would therefore like to see not only progress, but the finalization of the witness protection program for public service whistleblowers who expose corruption and maladministration in state departments. Die dood van Babita Diokaran byvoorbeeld is 'n skandvlek op die ganse staatsdiens en die regering en dit mag nooit weer gebeur nie. Agbare voorsitter, vakbonde het 'n sekere rol te speel in die arbeidsmark, veral met betrekking tot die beskerming teen uitbuiting van en diskriminasie teen hulle lede. Maar wanneer die stert die hond tot so 'n mate begin swaai, dat onredelike salarisverwagtinge die staatsdiens deur middel van gewelddadige stakings en uiteindelik 'n onbekostigbare salarisrekening begin lam lê, moenie spreekwoordelike streep getrek word. The public service wage bill has grown by 40% over the past 14 years, nearly 700 billion rand. That is the largest component of public spending and causes government to increase its borrowing to sustain its salary payments. That means that money is mostly borrowed and spent not on healthcare services or crime prevention or infrastructure development or quality education, but on salaries. Because this government, in its inability to stimulate economic growth and employment creation, has opted to overemploy, resulting in PAs for PAs and directors and deputy directors at any and all levels, earning exorbitant salaries, while essential service employees like police officers, nurses, and teachers and healthcare workers, on the other hand, are paid less than their worth, resulting in violent strikes such as the healthcare workers' strike we saw at the start of this year, which in itself was a disgrace. Because if you have sworn an oath to uphold and protect human life and dignity, and you took part in the violence of the healthcare workers' strike, then you and your trade union should be ashamed of yourself, and disciplinary steps should be taken against you. Chairperson, what does it say about the Department of Public Service and Administration and the ANC government at large that so-called integrity assessments for the recruitment to the public service have become mandatory in response to the findings of the State Capture Commission? Is dit waar ons nou is? So in effek, met ander woorde, Die bestaande staatsdiens is so korrup dat nuwe inkomelinge se integriteit eers getoets moet word voordat hulle aangestel kan word in die staatsdiens. Tot watter vlak van powere diens, korrupsie, oneerlikheid en bedrog het die regering van die dag gedaal dat so iets nodig is? Dit is onaanvaarbaar, agbare voorsitter. Die regerende party is onaanvaarbaar en die mense van Suid-Afrika sal dit nie langer duld nie. Julle sal sien, dankie.
Time is up. The next speaker is Honorable Deputy Minister for Public Service and Administration.
Thank you, House Chairperson, Minister for Public Service and Administration, Honorable Nokolo Kivit, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party in Parliament, Deputy Chief Whip, Joris Lapute, Acting Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Public Service, Honorable Telisam Kweba, Honorable Members of Parliament, Senior Management in Public Service and all public servants present here today, heads of government institutions present here today, fellow South Africans. It just saddens me to actually be listening to this debate that actually tells that to some extent it feels like the opposition is not debating the same thing that we're trying to debate this afternoon. Bringing about contents of the ministerial handbook and really distorting the facts about what is in the ministerial handbook. I think, Honorable House Chairperson, we will need to have a debate at some point just on the ministerial handbook. You're talking about generators and whatever. I live in a house and it's an official residence that does not have a generator. Where are you getting your information from? Let's stop misinforming the public. Honorable House Chairperson, we are bringing for consideration to Parliament the budget of the Vote 11 budget for Public Service and Administration, under the guidance of our CFO who's here today with us, and Tate Masilo Makura. House Chairperson, the mandate of the Public Service Administration Vote number 11 as the corporate arm of government is already clearly articulated and outlined by Minister Kivit, is building an effective and efficient and sustainable developmental and capable state. This is the thread that binds and mainstreams all the various programs, projects, and the resources allocated to help realize the needs of South Africans. It is important to create a conducive environment for public servants to thrive, leading to maximum productivity that revolves around the following programs: access to housing and home ownership by public servants through the government employee housing scheme that is led by Dumisani Sope, the DDG who's here with us today. Access to healthcare services through the government employee medical scheme that is actually led by the board, and the chairperson of the board, Dr. Tlatswayo is here with us, and the deputy chairperson, Tate Popi. Building an innovative technological and non-technological solutions responsive to the needs of the citizens through the Center for Public Service Innovation that's led by the executive or acting executive director, Lydia Sibukedi. The government employee housing scheme was established in terms of the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Chamber, Resolution 7 of 2015. The purpose of the scheme is to assist government employees to access affordable housing through various interventions that includes administration of housing allowance, provisioning of housing stock, production of employee enrollment scheme for aggregation of demand, and providing advice, education, counseling to employees to improve their chances of accessing housing loans. Currently, out of 1.3 million public servants, more than 1.1 million have accessed housing allowance. To date, home ownership has increased to 774,000 235, that is 70% in total, 0.4 in total. A further 189,856, that is 17% of the public servants, receive the housing allowance for rental accommodation. Approximately 300 million is being saved in the individual link savings, or what is called the ILFS, for public servants on a monthly basis. As at 31st March 2023, over 19 billion rands has been saved by government employees in the ILFS. House Chairperson, through South African Home Loan, RISIMA, Itala banks, public servants who would not ordinarily have qualified to access home loans finance from mainstream institutions have managed to do so successfully towards building homes in urban and rural areas, especially in Limpopo and KwaZulu-Natal, changing the landscape of rural South Africa, disrupting the housing status quo. If you go around these rural areas in the two provinces that I've actually just mentioned, you'll actually, if you want to notice, see the change. No more apartheid, poverty in rural areas that hit you in the face. It's now in the past. Palatable delivery of services is what you get if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. Let us not allow ourselves to be detracted by the side shows for political mileage gain. And I'm sure we've actually just seen that just now through the debate. Forward we move. The budget allocated for this program is 14.6 million. House Chairperson, the mandate of the government employee housing medical scheme is to improve affordability and access to quality healthcare for public servants, resulting in healthy workforce and increased state capacity to deliver services. GEMS has grown to be the second largest medical aid scheme in South Africa. Notable achievements include over 1 million of GEMS beneficiaries had access to a medical aid for the first time in their lives as a result of broadened beneficiary definition. The scheme has a track record of unqualified audit since its inception. Even if you want to keep on promoting corruption, you need to also be in the position to manage to realize the good things that this government has actually done. And this that I'm actually talking about, these qualified and clean audits is but part of it. Because we have a tendency of wanting to paint the government black and actually keeping on bringing allegations, not facts, about what is happening out there in order to try and actually weaken this government. GEMS has the largest diabetes, HIV, hypertension, disease management program among medical schemes, with more than 148 and 37 active participants receiving 2.3 billion worth of HIV care per annum. The scheme has also adopted the UNAIDS 90-90-90 targets to ultimately end the AIDS epidemic. GEMS was able to cover the unpredictable COVID-19 related costs for its beneficiaries in full. They didn't know COVID was coming, and they have managed to respond to COVID so efficiently. Chairperson, the Center for Public Service Innovation, CPISI, mandate promotes state capacity building through innovation as a catalyst for improved and sustained service delivery. It is tasked with building and entrenching the culture and practice of innovation in the public service. Remove a lady nako tse re tsamayang ka tsone. Re rata gore re re ko batho ba ditseng ko gae ke mmuso wa lona o leng gore o tshwanetse gore o tswedise dilo tsotlhe pele sentle. Mmuso wa lona wa lerata and mmuso wa lona ko ona o ikemiseditseng ka nako tsotlhe go dira dilo ka tsela e leng gore e tla dira gore maphelo a batho ba South Africa a be botoka. Some of the other CPSI innovations are emergency medical services to efficiently manage planned patient transfers, and e-hailing to deal with shortage of ambulances, partnering with youth innovators and youth organizations, CPSI, put in place digital inclusion and participation of youth in service delivery innovation through hackathons. Hackathons are teams of systems developers that progressively hack changes through digital revolution. In partnership with the UNDP South Africa, CPSI piloted citizen engagement app named Let's Talk into district development model sites, the OR Tambo and Waterberg districts, that allows for reporting of service delivery problems in two-way communication between citizens, councillors, and officials. Also, as something to note, in the previous financial year, CPSI hosted 6 living labs
Time is up.
where learners from 9 schools were introduced to the fourth industrial revolution skill set inclusive of artificial
Time is up.
intelligence. I wish to present this budget for consideration, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Chairperson. Allow me to start off by saying the National Freedom Party will support the budget vote tabled here today. Let me also draw the attention of this House that 13,500 Palestinians were forcefully removed from their homes. 13,500 Palestinian families. But also allow me to extend our condolences to the family and friends and the economic freedom fighters on the loss of the honorable member, Themba Nkosi Apleni. May his soul rest in peace. Now, I think having heard some of the presentation, particularly by the minister and her team, I want to raise some concerns. First of all, before I go there, allow me to condemn with the contempt it deserves this racial quotas for employees that we are embarking on with the employment equity, where Indians, coloreds, and others will be marginalized. Indeed, it's not a good sign that we might be going back to the days of apartheid. But also, let me say something. We have a very high, Minister, unemployment rate in the country, and I've raised this before. Now, given the fact that we have such a high unemployment rate, why should any one person enjoy 2 salaries? We have those that are teachers and they are counselors. So when you're in school, you're neglecting the community. When you're in the community, you're neglecting the children. And I know of cases of principals and teachers that are attending political meetings. So what happens to the children at school? It should not be acceptable at all. There needs to be a policy put in place. You can only enjoy 1 salary. You can only be employed by 1 state department. Now we talk about the issue of ethics, Minister, through you, Chairperson. Remember, many of the public servants have been found wanting with the 350 Rand grant. It clearly indicates that there's a weakness in the system if you're not able to pick up through the same database that somebody is working for the state and here they're also getting another grant. So I think it's something that we need to also address. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is this, and I know there's been a lot of attacks, Minister and Deputy Minister, on the public service. I want to commend the Public Service Commission, though, because this Public Service Commission made presentation to the Standing Committee on Appropriation. And one good example is that they identified why service providers were not being paid within the 30 days, because officials were demanding kickbacks and things from them. So, and the problem is this, that while the Public Service Commission has identified and reported, what we don't have is the will to be able to deal with that. Now, you can't blame the Public Service and Administration for that, or the Public Service Commission, but we need to take responsibility now to ensure that
Thank you,
accountable.
Honorable
The NFP will
Member.
support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Mamkiwi
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Mekivit, Deputy Minister Mamuchana, zindwendwe zethu ezibekekileyo, malungu abekekileyo alendlu, nabemi bonke baseMzantsi Afrika ndiyanibulisa. You know, akukho nto imnandi njengokuba silapha njena. Abantu i-opposition party zinento yokuthetha ngenxa yepolicies ezibekwe yi-ANC ukutshintsha ubomi babantu bakuthi. Abayithandi loo nto, namhlanje bapretenda engathi bona bangayenza ngcono loo nto, kanti abayazi. Honorable Chair, i-ANC iyayisapota le budget vote. Chairperson, the capability of the state to implement the National Development Plan and the 5-year medium-term strategic framework is central in the success of policy implementation. Without adequate capabilities, policy implementation is rather slow, and at times the goals set are not attained. It is therefore critical that the organs of state need to continuously adapt the way they function to meet the needs of the people with agility and consistency. The people of South Africa want a government that is responsible to their needs. The public services is an important state capacity to advance the objectives of our constitutional democracy. Public servants are expected to function in accordance with the Batupili principles, which are fundamental to serve the people. The quality of services provided by government is dependent on the people who manage and implement systems and processes to respond to various services required by the people. We must know that our people have complained of delayed services due to inefficiencies in the public service. Despite the challenges, the government has significantly improved multiple services through cutting red tape, which slow processes to complete various tasks. Government has set various policies, such as the payment of service providers within 30 days. This problem of payments has largely been resolved in all state organs. Where challenges exist, they are largely related to the sustainability of some state institutions, particularly municipalities which are in financial distress. We welcome the improvement in the state on this policy because small and medium-sized business are negatively impacted by delayed payment of services. In order to attain this target, government had to cut the red tape by introducing processes which enable faster payment of service providers. We welcome the fact that other state institutions pay service providers within 2 weeks. Red tape is a critical area we should continue to address for an efficient government. It is for this reason the president has appointed Siponkosi to focus on red tape, to accelerate the provision of services and transform processes and systems. The red tape intervention should also focus on the problems affecting various public service processes and systems. We live in times of rapid technological developments and digital technology. As the ANC, we have prioritized e-government as another critical area to strengthen the capability of the state. We today live in times wherein most of our citizens have access to mobile cell phones and access to internet. This creates new opportunities for government to improve its services and how it functions. The improved technological use in home affairs as an example for improved several services which result in efficiencies. And the people do not have to wait for long hours to be served, and people receive their documents at a faster rate. Honorable Chair, other local government municipalities have introduced various implications to pay for services online, while others have developed applications to report various service delivery challenges online through their phones. Government should also introduce automation in its system to ensure that certain processes are done through technological platforms, which shortens the period of service provision. Government turnaround for service provision and its own governance system can be greatly improved through automation and digitization. Honorable Chair, we call on the youth and South Africans in research and development of also focus on innovating various solutions for government to adapt technology to improve how it functions. The public sector innovation entity should harvest innovation from our national science and innovation system and global innovation. This is critical for agility. Public Service Commission is an important component of the work of the department. It assists the department to respond to various challenges in the public service with an independent perspective. The Constitution empowers the Public Service Commission with various recommending powers. The work that the Commission does has assisted government to respond to weaknesses impacting on the capability of the public service. Compliance with legislation and regulations is an important aspect of good governance. The levels of non-compliance in the public service is an aspect which concerns us. Non-compliance leads to into irregularities, and in other instances, it leads to corrupt practices. The Public Service Commission and the Auditor General have made several recommendations related to compliance, and we call on the ministry to ensure that compliance is enforced. Where public servants do not comply with legislation or regulations, government should speedily institute consequence management actions. Consequence management is important to develop a compliance culture and practice. We welcome the work of the department in ensuring that planning and budgeting takes the interest of the youth, women, and people with disabilities in the public service. Through the professionalization of the public service, we must ensure that entry-level job requirements are removed to create use of entry to be public service. The internship programs of government should be streamlined to entry jobs in the public service as part of career progression in the public service. The state should be an employer of choice because this will help the state to attract skilled professionals who will contribute in strengthening the capacity or capability of the state to transform our society for a better life for all. Honorable Chair, working with various social partners of the public service and administration, we shall strengthen the state, and we welcome the budget votes as they respond to the challenges impacting the state and strengthening areas of progress. The ANC support this budget. Honorable Chair, I just want to look at the 10-year-old youth league of the DA. Each and every time when the DA says we don't support, they also don't support, forgetting that what we are standing for is what they also think that they can do it better.
Thank you, Honorable Kiwi. The Honorable Jafta, is he here? No. Honorable members, let me remind you, as I don't see Honorable Jafta in the house, there was an agreement that the only people who will speak from the virtual platform are those that shall have requested permission from the speaker. And if you have not requested permission, you will not be allowed. So the next speaker is the Honorable Hendricks, who has requested permission and was granted the permission. As I say that, let me also remind the House whips or the party whips we have a shortage of translators and the two houses are sitting at the same time. So if your member is going to use another language besides the English, please indicate so that we have translators available. Because we don't want to stop in the middle, people say there is no translation. Thank you very much. Babu Hendricks, please come in. Mr. Hendricks Al-Jama.
Thank
you
you very
there?
much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, in the State of the Nation address, President Ramaphosa, and I want to quote him, said, "A professional public service staffed by skilled, committed, and ethical people is critical for an effective state and ending corruption, patronage, and wastage." Al-Jama has seen this being implemented, but there is still work to be done. So the president not only mentioned this in the State of the Nation address, but it is being implemented. And we would like to congratulate the administration for becoming more and more professional. Al-Jama holds a view that government must encourage and implement alternative approaches for objective government administration comprising of representatives of various political parties, NGOs, the churches. For example, we won't have a quarrel if the administration is joined by some of the experts in an NGO, like Give of the Givers, for example. There are also NGOs run by Jewish communities. They can give us the best to serve in government and go to the next level. We can work together to finding solutions to improve policy implementation, which can lead to improving people's lives. Al-Jama supports the budget and congratulates the administration for rising to the next level to implement the promise that President Ramaphosa made in the State of the Nation address. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hendricks. Dr. Conway, this is your opportunity.
House Chairperson, the DPSA is inefficient, ineffective, and in a crisis. As the primary and sole custodian of norms and standards within the public service, the DPSA is mandated with establishing norms and standards in the public service, as well as ensuring that those norms and standards are adhered to. But notwithstanding this crucial mandate of the DPSA, the plethora of challenges beleaguering the public service, most of which I must emphasize, center on the adherence to norms and standards, just keep going from bad to worse. So much so that corruption has become an integral part of the public service. This was confirmed in a report tabled in Parliament late last month by the PSC. The report, which provides an overview of financial misconduct in the public service for the 2021-2022 financial year, revealed that the 520 disciplinary cases relating to financial misconduct reported across the public service have resulted in a staggering 1.2 billion rand loss to the state. Further, according to the report, national departments accounted for 1 billion rand of this loss, while provincial departments accounted for 238 million rand of this loss. What is even more unsettling, House Chairperson, is that only a meager, paltry 6 million rand out of this 1.2 billion rand loss was recovered by the affected departments. This appalling recovery rate is indicative of the fact that norms and standards within the public service are largely ignored and barely enforced. What is also evident from this damning report is that there is a grave consequence management deficit in the public service, as very few departments instituted criminal proceedings in respect of the reported acts of fraud, misappropriation, and the abuse of public funds. Despite our public service being plagued by a plethora of challenges, the APP of the DPSA for the year under review spoke very vaguely, House Chairperson, to only a few of these challenges. And one of those challenges is the drawn-out precautionary suspensions in the public service. According to the DPSA, and this is facts, DM, facts. According to the DPSA, there are a total of 607 drawn out precautionary suspensions in the public service, costing the public purse an amount of approximately 265 million rand per annum in salaries. And although we agree that this particular challenge is a long-standing one, we totally disagree with the planned interventions proposed by the DPSA to address this challenge. House Chairperson, solely policy directives and the establishment of an independent panel are not the best and only way to address this challenge, but the DPSA seems to think so. The DPSA House Chairperson needs to start thinking out of the box and laterally to come up with more stringent interventions to address this challenge and other challenges plaguing our public service, such as proposing that discipline management be included as a key performance area for DGs and HODs. The time for issuing policy directives and departmental circulars in order to address challenges within the public service is so over. And we need to start holding senior managers within the public service financially and administratively accountable for the backlog of disciplinary cases in their respective department. If discipline management is included as a heavily weighted key performance area for senior managers, then I guarantee you, House Chairperson, that no accounting officer will regard this essential function of management as an option, but rather a normative key performance area. Should we fail to do this, House Chairperson, our public service will continue hemorrhaging millions and millions and even billions and billions of rands, which could have been used to build schools, hospitals, and other critical infrastructure. Given the DPSA's inefficiency and ineffectiveness, House Chairperson, the Public Service Commission rather has literally become the lone beacon of hope for our country's public service administration. And in as much as we prize the role of the PSC within the public service, we are extremely concerned, House Chairperson, that the independence and impartiality of the PSC runs the risk of being sullied by the appointment of ANC cadres to senior positions within the commission. Just the other day, House Chairperson, ANC members on the committee used their majority to adopt a report recommending to this August House that an ANC cadre with no relevant experience and qualifications be appointed as National Commissioner at the PSC. I would like to remind this House Chairperson, that the PSC is a knowledge-based institution, not a political institution. And the framework towards the professionalization of the public service envisages and demands a PSC staffed by competent and qualified persons who can actively contribute towards its existing knowledge base. House Chairperson, the Palmer Amendment Bill and the Public Service Amendment Bill were recently tabled in Parliament to the exclusion of the Public Service Commission Bill, which has been sitting with the department since 2018. House Chairperson, this bill has the potential to insulate the independence and impartiality of the PSC even further. And we therefore call on you, Minister, to ensure that this priority bill finds its way to Parliament. We also call on you, Minister, to ensure that when the bill does eventually get to Parliament, it contains a provision on the minimum qualifications and work experience of commissioners, so that only qualified and deserving persons are recommended for the position for this senior position within the commission. It simply cannot surface anymore, House Chairperson, to require that persons be only fit and proper to become commissioners at the PSC. The NSG House Chairperson, in terms of its mandate, is required to recover all costs associated with the training it provides. Unfortunately, the current funding model of the NSG robs it of being more self-sustainable in relation to its revenue generation capacity. It follows, therefore, that since the 5th Parliament, the committee has been at pains to recommend that the NSG revise its current funding model and develop a more sustainable funding model that looks to alternative and broader sources of revenue outside of our already burdened fiscus. However, the committee's recommendations in this regard, House Chairperson, appear to have fallen on totally different ears, as this year the NSG suddenly informed.
Thank you very much. Your time is up.
Thank you.
The next speaker is the Honorable Mantuli.
House Chairperson, Minister Kivit Belegas, Deputy Minister Majaki, and the DPSA team, Chair PSC, Professor Fikeni and the team, Principal NSG, Principal Ngaweni, CPSI led by Ms. Lydia, distinguished guests, honorable members, and the House at large. Ngaphambi kokuba ngiqhubeke nje, Salo wendlu. I correct Honorable Schreiber not to mislead the people of South Africa to say it was good for the apartheid masters to stay in this residential and now because it's black people, they must be street kids. He's mentioning billions and millions that are wasted, which were not wasted that time. And I also want to correct the honorable member Schreiber for daydreaming for the DA ruling the country in 2024. Ngedani, vuka mshekazi, vuka. You are daydreaming, mshekazi, vuka. Honorable Dana, you come here and grandstand. You are the member of parliament. Portfolio committees are to play oversight. Where are the portfolio committees and yourself to go and play oversight? Why should you come here and grandstand? Honorable Gondwe, it's news that if someone is not DA, he or she is ANC. But anyway, it's not about your scoring, honorable member. It's about the team scoring. I know you've scored for your own candidate, but unfortunately, Chairperson, I stand here on behalf of the ANC, the party that fought for the liberation of the South African people, and indeed, the democratic dispensation of 1994 resulted to a rainbow nation in this parliament, which is reflected in the August House today. This debate takes place in May, which is Africa Month. In the same month, 1963, the gigantic OAU, today AU, was conceived, and some of its main objectives were to coordinate and intensify its operations and efforts to achieve a better life for the peoples of Africa. And DPSA, PSC, and NSG seek to address the similar cause for the realization of a capable and ethical state. The ANC government is striving for the world-class public service, and surely today is better than yesterday. Tata Mandela once said, I opened the quote, the public service must counterattack the intrusive of egocentricity and remain enthused by the comprehensive tenets and the moralities as established by the fiduciary responsibility, close quote. The ANC government is committed in advocating and innovating the best policies ever. Chairperson, ongakenze enze lutho akazi lutho. Abanye banesilogozane sokuthi i-ANC yavula abantu amehlo, bemi ngenhla bemamunca igazi labo. Uhulumeni ka-ANC ufunda ngendlela ngoba uyenza. Namhlanje sesiyazi ukuthi i-DPSA ne-PSC bangavundulula amanyundululo enkohlakalo, kodwa awukho umthetho bagunyazayo ukuthatha izinyathelo ezinqala. Kube kunabantu abanamacala angapheli ebanjwa ededelwa, kodwa behlezi emakhaya beqhubeka behola imali kahulumeni. Iyeza-ke imithetho ezoqeda lo khisimusi, kuyoqhuma nhlamvana ezinye ziyofeketha. Amazambane abolile ayophuma ekhaya. The African National Congress has always placed the people at the center of the development, and our public servants are a national resource. We have fought for the rights of workers and stand by the call and struggle of improving the living conditions of workers. The world is experiencing rising interest rates with high levels of inflation, and this increases the cost of living. And as government of the people, we should continually develop interventions to cushion the working class. The relationship of the government with labor is significant social partner which should be characterized by the respect and justice to develop consensus. Human resource capacity is critical, and the National School of Government has an important responsibility to play to ensure that public servants have the requisite skills and knowledge to implement government policies. Training and development is a continuous and ongoing process in all working environment. As new challenges develop and new ways of doing things, the National School of Government offers various training courses for public services and should serve as a key component of the professionalization of the public service. It has currently trained over 130,000 public servants and private sector employees over the past 2 years. The significant enrollment from employees in the private sector demonstrate the level of interest in the public service and the existing capacity to attract various skills into the public service. The NSG has also adapted to the changed conditions of learning through the introduction of online learning, which enables increased access. We call upon all public servants to take keen interest in the courses offered by the school. For the professionalization of the public service to succeed, training and development and requirements of training by the school will be critical to ensure career development in the public service. Government has developed an economic reconstruction and recovery plan, which is centered around infrastructure development because of its catalytic impact, the capability of the state to implement the economic reconstruction and recovery plan is critical, and the assessment of existing skills will be crucial. We welcome the pronouncement by the President Cyril Ramaphosa in his response to the State of the Nation address, when he committed that, I open quote, "I am directing that all infrastructure and service departments conduct skills audits within 9 months. These audits must not tell us what training officials think they require, but must help us understand whether critical skills to exist in the departments to effectively deliver infrastructure and services." The National School of Government will work with organs of state like Human Science Research Council to conduct these audits, etc. Close quote. Various skills audits undertaken have demonstrated that we do have public servants in senior positions without the requisite requirements. This anomaly should be addressed, and government departments and their entities should assess the skills and, where necessary, undertake skills audit to ensure the required technical capacities exist. Outsourcing of various professionals in the public service is due to the lack of sufficient skills within the public service. We welcome processes of amending legislation.
Thank you. Honorable Member, your time is up.
Ngiyabonga mhlali ngaphambili, i-ANC iyayisupporta i-budget vote.
Honorable members, the minister will now conclude the debate.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. House Chair, let me first start by thanking the honorable members of this House who took seriously the engagement in a debate on matters that affect the people. I really need to do that, but to also point out my disappointment on those who chose to use a parliamentary sitting as a point of where, as a court, where one must stand and defend themselves, which is unfortunately abuse of this platform, as well as abuse of the privilege provided to members in the House when they debate. Let me start, House Chair, let me start by reminding Honorable Gondwe that in my speech, I did indicate that this morning, the bill, PSC bill, has been approved by the Cabinet Committee for public comment. It goes to Cabinet next week on Wednesday for approval. So once it goes that route, there's no turning back. And for me, probably, Chair, we need to look at how we debate, because at times we tend to read what we had prepared without applying our minds to that which was said on the platform. Honorable Schreiber, I was tempted not to respond to you, precisely because you deliberately covered yourself with the privilege, alleged fraudster, alleged dishonest. Let me tell you, I'm a South African. I have worked for my last 30-odd years. And South Africans that I have worked with know what I'm capable of. So I have no reason to justify, I have no reason whatsoever to justify who I am and what I'm capable of doing. Lastly, Honorable Chairperson, let me also add my voice in sharing on behalf of our department and the NC the message of condolences to the EFF on the loss of the honorable member Blin. I do want to say that given the kind of work that we do, when times like this hit, they hit hard, especially to those who have been walking the road with yourself. I've interacted a number of times with the honorable member, and I respect his respect for others, but also just his demeanor or his how he presents himself, especially in debates. Honorable Imam, you have supported us, and I do want to say all the areas that you have raised are the areas that as a department, we are seized with dealing and addressing. The problems that are being highlighted by the honorable members who truly paid attention to the debate are those areas that the department is seized with addressing every step of the way. I thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister, the team MPSA, all of our entities or sister departments that we have worked so well with up to this far. I thank all of the members' support. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thank you, honorable members. You are reminded that the debate on small business development budget vote will take place at 16:15 in this very chamber. And the debate on National Treasury budget vote will take place at 6:15 in committee room M46. That concludes the debate and the business of the mini plenary. The mini plenary will rise. Thank you.
Recording stopped.